President Trump made headlines yesterday when he made an early exit from the G7 summit in Canada. His early return to Washington, D.C. caused many to speculate on how he was going to respond to Iran and Israel's escalating conflict. Well, since his return, he has published some statements that seem to suggest greater U.S. involvement in the conflict. What might this involvement look like? Well, here to discuss this and more, Congressman Warren Davidson, who serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Financial Services Committee. He represents the 8th Congressional District of Ohio. Congressman Davidson, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Always an honor. Thanks, Tony.
So let me get your take on the President Trump's most recent language towards Iran, suggesting that the United States may join Israel.
Well, I think a lot of people are concerned that President Trump is willing to cross the line from tactical support of our friends in Israel to actual tactical participation. And look, I think people know that President Trump's bias is towards peace. He's worked to try to secure a way for Israel to feel safe and secure, and frankly, the world to feel secure. Iran has been the destabilizing force in the Middle East. They've not just done things directly, they've used proxies. I mean, and as predictable as gravity is, if Iran has money, they're going to attack Israel with it. They funded the Hamas attacks, the 10/7 massacre in Israel, and they funded the Houthis, Hezbollah, and others. So this has been something that's been building towards this. They've been refusing to be transparent about their nuclear program. So it's understandable that Israel felt threatened. But I think a lot of people are surprised to see, a willingness potentially by President Trump to get involved in an aggressive way.
Now, do you think that's because Israel has shown, it appears, that they struck out on their own, initially remarkable success in the first 5 days of this conflict? The language of President Trump has grown stronger in terms of engagement as Israel has become more successful.
Yeah, I think, look, if Israel's incredibly successful, then they don't really need our support. And frankly, this isn't really our war to fight or fund. I mean, if President Trump wants to declare a war, he's got a lot of groundwork to lay in Congress. Congress is the body that declares wars. If he's responding to an immediate threat where Iran attacks troops, of course he needs to defend our troops and respond in a way that deters future action by Iran. So far, the United States hasn't directly attacked Iran, and Iran hasn't directly attacked the United States. So I think that's a line that, we've been supportive tactically in other ways for Israel, but it would be an important shift for the president to cross over to tactical support and actually engage directly with Iran.
The issue that Israel is bringing up is that they have neutralized most of the air defenses of Iran. And they have targeted some of the nuclear facilities, but in order to eliminate them, they have to have munitions that, quite frankly, they don't have. The United States has them and really are the only ones that can deliver them. At what point do we say, all right, this is in our best interest that we eliminate this nuclear capability of Iran? Because I feel like they're probably going to accelerate their efforts if they're if Israel stops at a certain point, they can't go any further. Many think that Iran's going to accelerate the development of their nuclear weapons once the heat is off.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Israel doesn't have a way to finish a war, it's not really wise to start one. And the United States is an expert in that. We've started all kinds of wars and failed to finish them well, and a lot of them have been in the Middle East. So I think we'd be wise to, take every effort to avoid getting involved in a war. But if we do, we should do it the right way and make sure the entire country's behind it, have Congress authorize it and continue to authorize it, not just use some sort of executive action. And the reality is, once you drop the bunker busters, then there's destabilization and further escalation. It just draws and expands the war. That's been the history of conflict in the Middle East. I think we'd be wise to be cautious.
Do you think a regime change is needed in Iran?
I think that the Iranian people would be better off with a very different leadership, but I don't think it's America's place to decide who leads which country. We struggle to do that for our own country, frankly.
So what does America's proper involvement look like to you in terms of the threat, the growing threat that we see from a nuclear-equipped Iran, and they've been pursuing this. And depending on who you listen to or what intelligence information you get, they're closer each passing day to developing that and reaching that point of breakout. What should be the U.S.'s response in terms of assistance to Israel to eliminate this threat?
Well, look, like you, I'm sure we have friends in Israel. Israel's a friend of the United States. I wish them safety and success. I want them to be secure. And the United States has provided support for Israel in lots of ways. Israel, of course, we would sell weapons to Israel, but the idea that the United States is supposed to fight and fund every war around the world, I think, is fallacious. And frankly, even when our friends get into a war or start one, they shouldn't say, "Oh, America's going to come and save it. I just kind of have to get it started." I don't think we want to set that condition for anybody, including Israel.
And I agree. I mean, look, as a Marine veteran, I'm actually not a hawk. I believe that we should not be seen as the world's policeman. But I do think, as the world leader, we have a responsibility to provide both diplomatic efforts to resolve issues, but when those are exhausted, there comes a place that we have to be a part of making the world as best as possible a safe place. I also see, and I'd like to get your thought on this, I see a difference between Israel and just other countries, say Ukraine. I feel like we have a closer relationship. We have a stronger obligation with that country.
Well, we certainly have a special relationship with Israel. But again, we should decide the terms of that. And if the United States is going to get involved, we've set out in the Constitution, in Federalist 69, Federalist 41. I mean, it's well established. And part of the reason is you don't want just a small percentage of the country at war. If America goes to war, you want the whole country committed to it, and you want to win decisively and swiftly. The idea that America is somehow made stronger because we're in a constant state of war is fallacious. These endless wars have left us less free, less safe, more burdened by debt. We've grown the surveillance state, and instead of focusing on our enemies, we focused it inward on American citizens. We've seen it abused in every way that people were forecasting that it would be abused. And I think it's really, important that we stay focused on the mission that was the core of the Make America Great Again campaign. And Donald Trump has been very effective at avoiding wars. I hope this is a very effective peace negotiation. We do some brinkmanship here, and we get a peaceful resolution to it. But you got to look at the challenge that President Trump's up against. Everyone he was negotiating anti-nuclear weaponization programs with Iran is dead. I mean, Israel killed them, specifically them. So I think you'd be hard pressed to find an Iranian who wants to be listed as a nuclear negotiator right now in the wake of that.
But do you really? I mean, look at the history of Iran. Can we really trust them? I mean, they've been dragging this out. I think just buying time.
Well, that's a fair concern. And look, I mean, when President Trump's first term, he was working with Kim Jong-un in North Korea to de-escalate tensions between North and South Korea. I mean, that hadn't crossed into a hot war, but tensions were escalating, and President Trump basically, kind of famously said, "Hey, I got a bigger button." But he also put the burden on South Korea. I mean, who's benefiting from this first and foremost is South Korea. So he charged them for THAAD missile systems. He said, "Yeah, well, we're glad to sell them to you, and we'll help you reach a peaceful resolution." And I think that's, for our friends, of course, we'll help you, and we want peace. So I think that's a great role for the United States to play.
And I would definitely agree that it should not come without a price tag. I mean, we have to. We can help other countries, but they got to help pay the freight for that. Speaking of paying the freight, we just got a couple minutes left. I want to switch over to the issue of the reconciliation bill, the one big beautiful bill. The Senate has released the framework for their version. What do you think about it? Is it going to fly in the House?
Well, look, I'm hopeful that at the end we'll wind up with a product that every Republican in the House and Senate can vote for. We were close in the House. That's really what it took to get it out of the House to the Senate. We hear some House members saying, well, I can't vote for what the Senate's talking about. A lot of this comes down to something most Americans don't even know about: state and local tax deductions. This is a way for most of the country to subsidize high tax states like New York, where they get tax deductions, so they effectively pay lower federal taxes. So they get a bigger tax break out of this package in blue states than you do in the rest of the country.
So, and let me. We just have a minute left. There are five, I think, five House Republicans that are in those blue states that have gotten that cap up to $40,000. The Senate lowering it down to $10,000. Will five Republicans in the House derail this entire thing?
Well, they've threatened to. I mean, that's why they moved all the way to 40,000. I mean, last Congress, they said they were content with 20,000. The Ways and Means Committee opened at 30, thought they would be able to get their vote. And I think the reality is these guys have kind of abused it. It's a very expensive provision. I mean, over $300 billion in deficit addition because we're subsidizing these guys. So in a way, they're out negotiating everyone else and holding us hostage.
It's going to be very interesting to see. Warren Davidson, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today for a conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Tony.